And for more, Dana?
We're going to bring in RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. It's great to have you. So with this race in Pennsylvania too close to call, and Pennsylvania being such an important state for Republicans this year, it's an open Senate race as Senator Toomey is retiring. And there's, of course, we know the razor-thin margins in in the Senate. So this vote, this state counts very much. For whoever wins, Oz or McCormick, when this is all said and done, do you believe that either of them would be in good position to try to beat the Democrats' nominee, who's John Fetterman?
I do, Dana and Bill. I think the thing that we're taking away from last night is, first of all, Republicans outpaced Democrat turnout by 100,000 votes. It's the first time we've ever beat the Democrats in 10 years in this type of primary situation. We also are going up against a Democrat candidate in Fetterman who is an acclaimed Democrat socialist. So if you look at what de Blasio did in New York City, that's what Fetterman would do for Pennsylvania. You'd see defund the police. You'd see getting rid of energy independence, which is so important to the western side of Pennsylvania with those coal miners. He would be a disaster for Pennsylvania. The other key factor is Republicans have outpaced Democrats in voter registrations 4-1 since 2020. So I absolutely think that we'll pick up that Senate seat with either of these candidates.
When you also scan the country, I mean, you have a lot to look at now, right? You got 5 different states. It's the biggest night we've had thus far in this primary season. When you look at the Democratic results, do you see a pattern there or any trends developing, Ronna? Or is a little mix and match here and mix and match there that really don't tell us a lot just yet?
Well, I do think we saw the left progressive wing from the Democrat Party win last night. We saw this in Oregon. We have a race out there that looks neck and neck, or it looks like the progressive's going to win. We saw Fetterman win. Sherry Beasley in North Carolina, she's aligned with Cori Bush, who has embraced, of course, the defund the police movement. The other thing we're looking at is overall turnout. We had a lot of competitive primaries last night. Not only in Pennsylvania did we outpace Democrat turnout, but in North Carolina, where we have an open Senate seat, we had 150,000 more Republicans turn out than Democrats. That bodes very well for us heading into November, and it shows the energies on the Republican side.
And so let's look at North Carolina real quickly, because that race was so definitive. It's like the opposite of Pennsylvania. Ted Budd absolutely trouncing McCrory in that race. North Carolina, do you consider that Senate seat to be safely in Republican hands?
I do. North Carolina has been trending more and more Republican. We have 3 community centers open in North Carolina. The RNC invested over $1 million in North Carolina prior to this primary. But Ted Budd came out with a strong, decisive victory. We had big wins in North Carolina in 2020 as well, with the lieutenant governor and some of the House races. So I feel very good about what we're seeing in North Carolina. And again, on the voter registration trends, we have been outpacing the Democrats in North Carolina 3-1. Since 2020. So this is a trend we're seeing across the country, and it's showing up in these primary results where both Republicans and Democrats had competitive primaries last night, but Republicans outpaced Democrat turnout.
You know, Ronna, on that point, just to drill down a little bit, there's a distinction between these races, just like there's a distinction between all these different states, because sometimes, you know, there's more on the line. You've got more races for the Senate or governor, and maybe local congressional races as well. And what I've been saying for a couple of days here now is that each state, it's not an apples to apples comparison on turnout. When you consider that, look, I know Republicans ran up the score in Ohio, but there was a lot of energy in the races there within the Republican Party. Likewise for Texas. So how do you factor that into your evaluation based on the individual state?
Yeah, you're right. It is different. If you're not having a competitive race on the Democrat side, it's hard to do apples to apples. But in North Carolina, we had competitive races, not just at the Senate level, but also at a lot of House seats as well, and same with Pennsylvania. So I think those really do match up, where you can look at the overall turnout and correlate that Republicans had more energy. In Texas, something that we saw was Republicans doubled Democrat, or had 500,000 more voters than Democrats. We had a massive turnout in Texas. We saw the same in Ohio. This is something we've seen consistently throughout the year. And why is that? We know that Biden's underwater in his numbers. We know that inflation is hurting average Americans. We know that gas prices are hurting people. We know that there's a baby formula shortage that this administration's not addressing. And it seems every time a crisis comes up, they're ill-prepared. And that's why we're seeing voters look at Republicans and say, maybe we need to switch leadership in Washington and put Republicans in charge of the Senate and the House in the midterm election.
Ronna, just a last question, which is that, so you're the chair of the party, and you look across and there's a lot of good things that you see. But what is something that you are concerned about or that keeps you up at night as you think about trying to help the Republicans win in the fall?
Well, I don't like the primaries getting so divisive. I think this Pennsylvania one we can recover from. It's in May. I worry about August and September primaries in our party. I don't like the candidates attacking each other so much that they can't come out from their negatives in time to beat a well-funded Democrat incumbent. Those are things I worry about. I don't like the phrase red wave because I don't want anyone to get complacent. We all need to work hard for every single victory. We need 5 seats to win back the House, 1 to win back the Senate. And what I'm seeing around the country is a lot of angst. The American people are suffering right now, and we need to deliver for them. And that's going to happen through Republican victories in November so we can course correct the disaster that we're seeing under Joe Biden.
Meanwhile, the endorsements on behalf of Donald Trump, he's done pretty well. Hasn't won everywhere, hasn't won them all, but he's done very, very well thus far in this season. Ronna, I hope you come back.
He's at 96%.
Please, go ahead, sorry.
In baseball, that's 1,000. That's batting 1,000.
Right. I definitely would never have come up with that baseball metaphor, but I'm glad you did. Thank you so much, Ronna. Good to see you.